initially 100,000 of, say, half-inch screw. Okay? So one of my constraints is the number of screws that I have available. Okay? So X1 is, say, number of chairs, X2 number of desks, and say I'm using 10 per chair and say 5 per table. I have that constraint. After, and of course I have other material that I'm limited and I go buy all this material. Some material you use them all. Some material you have leftovers. You're going to end up with some excess. After I finish this, if this 100,000 is giving you that you are, let's just say, let me just make up some numbers here. Let's just say we make 1,000 chairs and 500 desks. Then 10 times 1,000 plus 5 times 500, I have, what is that, 2,500, 12,500, okay? This difference, which is 100,000 minus 12,500, is the slack. This is excess half-inch screws. Does that make sense? So at the end of the problem, what the program does, it plugs in your optimal solution to individual constraints and see how much of your resources you're actually using, how much is left over.
I understand that, but I don't understand why Department 2 is the bottleneck and causing a problem.
Okay, Department 2 originally had 150 hours of labor, and you used 150. So slack is 0. When slack is 0, that means you have nothing left. These guys are working full force, giving you that kind of production.
So if you add any more labor, that creates an inefficiency.
If you add, well, if you transfer, there is more to this than we have really right now, we have time for, but when you adding at this time here, we transferring guys. Because if you remember, that third department constraint was a redundant constraint. So the third department is telling the rest of the production, say, you guys decide on a production, whatever it is you can do, we have enough labor hour to do it.
But you would want to get rid of that labor and
You have one of the two things. No, we have one of the two things. Either
because you're at an equilibrium. You wouldn't like supply and demand for. I mean, simple economics.
No, I know exactly where it's going. Go ahead.
So, like, if you add more people to Department 2, that would decrease the labor hour per unit?
No, it actually increases. Now, you could do one of there are several factors involved. We're not really analyzing this in a really in-depth economic type fashion. Because right now, we are assuming at one point that if Department 3 people are not capable of doing any other tasks than what they doing in Department 3, then you just have extra people in that department. That's how people get laid off. They're not making contribution to your profit. Okay, so that's one way. Or if you're running a type of an operation that you're actually doing multifunctional workers and you can transfer people around, then you're probably putting some people in that department. That's just a misallocation of your personnel. When I actually look at the solution like this, I could immediately make a recommendation that there are too many people in that third department. Are you understanding now why the bottleneck is that second department? Okay? Now, one final thing. I know you guys kind of, the LP is dry subject, and unfortunately, next week when we kind of applying it, hopefully it gets a little better, but just a little bit, not much, but it's better than being this dry. Anyway, we started it one more time, and one more thing I want to talk about and stop. We started by understanding the notations. X's for decision variables. Those are your decisions, the variables you want to change. Investments, advertising, production planning, anything number of it you get involved with, say transportation, just the goods that you want to transfer from one location to the other. Those are your X's. Objective functions are coefficient, the C's. We call them C's, and later on you will see this. Those are contribution to your objective. If you're maximizing, you can think of them as revenue or profit. As a matter of fact, guys, I'm not giving you that problem 13. Maybe I should give you 13 also. Why don't you guys do 13 as well as 14? I mean, we'll do.
Huh?
I'm sorry.
I thought class was over.
Don't do that. I'll go over. I go. Because those coefficients, in problem number 13, actually you need to play around with that C value. They're giving you both revenue and cost, and you're maximizing net profit. We'll do that next week. Don't do it. On your constraints or your limitations, your right-hand side of what you have available, and at the end of the program, there are, if you go and make investment in all the funds, reduced costs are all zero. If there are funds or stocks you're not investing on, then they have a reduced cost. Those reduced costs are the amount of return they need to generate, additional return or additional profit in this case, that second product needs to generate to be included in your optimal solution. Slacks are just your leftovers, unused excess resource. And you want them, if you're running things optimally, you should get very low figure. Now, one of the last things before we leave is that column says dual prices. Y'all see that?
Yes.
Now, when you're looking at your slacks, so this is Department 1, Department 2, Department 3, slacks for 50, 0, 200, dual price. Your Excel calls this shadow price. Some text calls it dual price, some call them shadow price. So two different terminologies are being used for this. Now, if this is the amount of money, dollar amount, you're willing to pay for more resources. are you willing to pay and put more guys in the first department?
No.
Why not? You already have 50. Do you want to go hire people, put them in the third department? No. When these guys are having, when you have positive values here, dual prices are 0. That means there's no reason for you to put any additional individual in those departments. The numbers that you get here is value for an additional unit of resource. Value for an additional unit of resource. You see the 60 here, the reason that is positive. So, and I want you guys, and if you're not too tired, I will try it. If not, you guys try it at home.
Okay.
When we had that department 2, originally we had 150, right?
Yes.
That generated $9,000 of profit. Okay? If you put one more guy, 1 more hour, just hire a guy for 1 hour. Change this to 151. Your profit will go up by $60. So the value for an additional unit, so that just means that how much profit you can generate for 1 more hour in that second department, for every single hour. So if you change that Alaska string, it take 1 guy for 1 hour and put him in the second department, your profit will go up by $60. This is what we call dual price. It's just kind of giving you heads up how much is the value. As a matter of fact, I don't know if you have time, but if you do, a lot of the companies actually use this shadow price for salary determination.
Salary determination?
Salary determination. If you put 1 engineer, go hire one engineer, how much this individual will make as far as profit contribution to the bottom line of the company. For 1 more engineer, if that 1 more engineer gives you $100,000 additional profit and you hire this engineer for 50, you're making profit. If you give them $100,000, obviously you break even. So it just basically, as far as purchasing, a lot of people, you just know because at the time that you're running out of material for your production, then you need to go buy more. And that additional money that you need to pay, sometimes the cost for the material is more than per unit. One screw might just cost you $10, and you're not generating additional $10 in your profit, so it doesn't make sense to go and buy. So that's why you sometimes reject orders. You definitely stay, but a lot of this, when you put it all together, now you guys kind of generating. I'm just going to stop here. There's a little bit more here, then I will pick it up next week. But overall, that dual price is the value for an additional unit of a resource for 1 hour of labor. And guys, please try this. Go to your Excel, change that 150 to 151. Your Z will go up by $60. That's how they get that. Okay? So all of this together, I'm hoping you guys have a little bit of insight, and now we have the tools, and hopefully we can put it together and start utilizing. Have a great night. Make sure I have your test, guys. And if you have any question, I'm around,
Makes sense
and
now why that zero.
we can go
Now
over.
they keep bottling.
Yeah. The dual price, explain that.
Karen, did you see our case?
Yeah, I would love to see that.
I know, I was just.
I like that.
The work of a master.
Yes, exactly. I hop
Excess labor.
I'm pretty happy about
This
that.
is excess.
Yeah, no
You
kidding.
you started at 500, and you're using
I did good on the equations and everything, but the simple questions. Take care. Thank you for the.
They can do that.
Yeah.
They can do that.
And I freaking sucked ass on that.
Mine looked like that.
To 490. Your Z will go up like
The error, the value were wrong. When you fix that, when I fix this, then it works.
No, you don't have to. You can just easily have one.
You can stop
But
this.
that 1 hour, you go hire someone.